here with two legends, living legends, NBA legends, sports legends, media legends, Bob Ryan, Cedric Maxwell. Here on a sad day, but kind of celebratory too. We're celebrating a lifelong lived, spanned multiple generations. Tommy Heinsohn passed away yesterday, and that was Tuesday. So I wanted to get these two gentlemen together to give their thoughts, and we'll start with Bob Ryan.
It's the length and the scope of it, and he has a unique role in Celtic history in terms of longevity, and no one else has had this particular link of player, coach, broadcaster, and icon to new generations that have never seen a hook shot. I was prepared. I was aware that he was in very bad shape and probably wasn't going to make it. So it was a matter of the inevitable news coming, so it wasn't like it was out of nowhere in terms of reaction. I said, oh, okay, here it is. And I've had a lot of time to get my thoughts together, frankly, in anticipation of Tommy's death. Look, it meant a lot to me. It's very personal. We started as rookies in 1969. I was a rookie, 23-year-old kid, handed the Celtic beat 2 days before opening night. I mean, that's a whole other story itself. He was the rookie coach of a team that was trying to get itself together after the greatest player in its history had retired the previous spring, Bill Russell, as well as Sam Jones. This is the hand he was dealt as a new coach. Now he's coaching some guys he had been teammates with, which is always dicey. I want Max to address what that might be like. John Havlicek, Don Nelson, Satch Sanders were all teammates. Larry Siegfried was on that team, teammate. And no, he didn't play with Tom. Anyway, so it was all new to him. And we were feeling so I had a relationship with him right from the start that I needed. I needed to learn the NBA. I thought I knew something about basketball, but I was more of a college guy. So anyway, so I spent a lot of time with Tom Heinsohn, a lot of cups of coffee, a lot of stories, and as he taught me what the NBA was all about, as opposed to what the college basketball world I knew was all about.
Well, I probably not prepared for it as much. Although I knew Tommy was sick and I knew Tommy was in bad shape, it was just like when they said to me, maybe it was almost 2.5, 3 months ago, that they were sending Tommy Heinsohn home and he was going into hospice. So you looked that it was any day now that Tommy Heinsohn was going to pass away. Next thing I know, I'm hearing Mike Gorman holding conversations with Tommy. He's eating, he's doing this. So it was almost like I knew it was coming, but I didn't know it was coming. As a player, I had him my rookie year, and that was his last year coaching. Bob would remember this. It was kind of revolt against Tommy at the end with some of his players like JoJo and Sidney and those guys, I think, kind of wanted him out. So I think Tommy had my first year, I had probably about 18 games with Tommy Heinsohn. And what I remember most about that was he would take a Cedric Maxwell to the side after practice, keep me there, put a guard on the rim where the ball can't go through. And all I was going to do was just have a box out drill. And, like the last 2 or 3 guys who were left, Boswell, and I had to box those guys out. And that was, it was taxing, but I learned, he told me, said, you're not going to out jump guys in this league. You're going to have to be smarter, quicker, and your mind has to be sharp enough to box guys out. So he taught me some valuable lessons by myself as a basketball player.
I find that very interesting, Max, because I like to tell people they don't understand this, the technique, the technical side of him. I'll tell you a guy whose career he didn't make, but he enhanced. He made him better. Individual instruction. Don Chaney. Don Chaney couldn't shoot worth a shit when he started, all right? And he drifted, and his technique was awful. Tommy worked with him individually after practice, and to the point where Don Chaney in 1972-73 averaged 13 points a game. Some of that was fast break layups, but the fact is he started making jump shots, and he owes that all. Tommy Heinsohn was his technical coach. So he obviously, his basketball mind was extraordinary. It was the technique. I remember him telling me about all this. Techniques about offensive rebounding that he had, and he was he was very proud of that, yeah. Max. I bet he passed that on to you guys too.
Oh, he passed those kind of lessons on, Bob. He'd have these drills where he'd be talking about a 2-on-1 fast break, 3-on-1, 4-on-1, 5. We're gonna even 6-on-1. I'm like, damn, the only 5 guys on the floor. How do you get to 6? Well, this guy comes back around and comes back through the play, and he showed how to fast break. He felt like his teams were going to get easy baskets, and that's how they beat Kareem and Oscar Robertson, essentially just running them out the gym. They never took their foot away from any part of their body. They kept their boot right in their butt the whole time. Never let you take a breath, and that's what they did. He was just there was so many things. And Bob, like you, what I remember about Tommy Heinsohn was just the mental games he played with you as a friend or whoever he was, and just challenge you. One thing he said to me one time, he says, this is when he was broadcaster, and maybe I was in my 4th or 5th year as a broadcaster. He said, in front of a crowd of people, he turns to me and says, why do black people always vote Democratic? And I looked at him like, Mr. White Man, what the hell are you damn talking about?
But he got away with it.
Yeah, but it was more to see how I was going to react than anything else. The pressure he would put you on in those places, he wanted to see. It was almost like you were a rat in a maze, and he was experimenting with your mind.
One of you guys are Max. You mentioned Kareem. I think of the hook shot. This is an interesting group of people here because you got Bob, who's right from the beginning, from the media standpoint. You got Max, player, media, and all that. And then you got me. I'm just kind of the fan, right? So I grew up listening to Tommy. I mean, he obviously spoke the game to the fans, but I never knew until remember they used to do those classic all-star games with the classic players. I think somebody blew out their knee and they stopped doing it.
Yeah.
Remember, Bob? And
yeah, absolutely.
They were great. That was my favorite part of All-Star Weekend, like Redwood coach, So Tommy does this hook shot from the corner 3, and I'm like, I thought only Kareem shot hook shots. And then, the broadcasters, I think it was Rick Barry or somebody, said, he invented the hook shot was Tommy Heinsohn, and talk to that a little bit.
Well, he perfected it. He didn't invent it, but he perfected it. And the difference was he was a college center at Holy Cross. He was 6'7". He was a classic 50s oriented college center, which means hook shot was part of the deal. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you couldn't be a center in the 50s and the 60s if you didn't have a hook shot. That was part of the deal. But when he got to the NBA, he's now a forward, and he's not posting up that much. And they got a center. His name was Russell. And so Tommy Dunn expanded to the running hook and his patented shot. And if they ever do the statue, I hope to God that someday they do out at the Garden, it's got to be the running hook. And he, from the corner, I mean, no one does that today. That's preposterous. You get benched, right? Out. But that was his go-to shot, was a running hook from the corner.
Then I remember years later, they're closing the Garden, and he faked the hook when remember you guys did the pass of the ball, and Tommy faked a hook, passed it off to the next legend, and people forget what a great player he was. And
that was a very unique moment in Celtic history.
Oh, as a fan, it was too. Talk about it, yeah.
That particular line of people who were out there. And what I remember so well was the fact how Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen were all teasing me, saying, what the hell you doing out there in the middle of those guys? It was great. And it was just funny because it was like Kuz had it, and then it went around and it got to Tommy. He faked the hook, and then went to JoJo. JoJo passed it to me, And it then finally got to Larry at the end where Larry put the basket, he put it in the hoop, and it was just it was a surreal thing to be out there with so many great players in that situation that it was mind blowing.
That was fun. You know, I mean, Max, we've all seen this over the years. Tommy demonstrating that hook with his sport coat and dress shoes before a game for whatever reason, for fun. I mean, it was like it was so much a part of his identity was the hook. And he did a book with Leonard Lewin of the New York Post at one point. You know what the title of the book was? Give him the hook.
Wow.
It's right on the bookshelf behind me. I should have held it up. But give him the hook. He just identified so much as a player with that hook shot.
Well, I think, Bob, you're right. And I'll go just like you did. And I asked this today when I was on the Sports Hub, the radio. I said, I am not sure if Tommy Heinsohn isn't the most beloved Celtic ever. And when I think about that, just the generations that he covered, going from as a player to a coach to a broadcaster, you would go someplace and I would be with Tommy and I might think I was big shit, but they all like, yo, that's Max right there. But that's Tommy Heinsohn right there. And then I love the way he used to say it too, because he would put down these stories that would just almost captivate you. Because he talked about how the guy Dave Zinkoff would say his name. He said, "That's not my name, Tommy Heinsohn. It's Tommy Heinsohn." And he said the only person who would say that the right way was the guy in Philadelphia when he would announce him coming into a game. So he just had stories about money, about buildings, about being dropped off in a cornfield at Fort Wayne and getting off a train, and the kids had to come pick him up and they would take you back in for $1 or whatever it was. The stories were just fascinating about the early NBA.
Oh, I love you brought up the Fort Wayne thing, because I've heard those Fort Wayne stories. And there was a special place they went, a cafe, some blue parrot, red parrot, I don't know, something, but they got dropped off and then they had to get a bus. I mean, it's the NBA. But I loved hearing all those stories naturally, and the stories about the Celtics and the individual guys on the team. Bill Sharman, who was so meticulous, I heard all these stories, and he said he was the best athlete of all of them. I just filed this away. It was a tutorial, it was a clinic. I learned so much.
The thing that he never really talked about, and I wish I had picked his brain about.
Oh, I know where you're going. I hope. Go ahead.
He never talked about the social issues.
Yes.
He never talked about, places that he went. I heard Bob Cousy talk about when Russell didn't get a chance to eat. I did an interview with Sam Jones where he talked about they were in St. Louis. And he went to a place and Sam said, "I'm the fastest one." So I was the first one in line at this cafe. And I got to the top of the register and the lady said, "So I'm sorry, sir, but we can't serve you." And he talked about how all his teammates went, essentially went hungry that day and didn't eat because of that. But I never heard Tommy talk about those situations with Russell and all those guys because back during the 50s when he started, it really had to be something when it think about race relations and places that Black people couldn't go or Black players couldn't go.
No, you're right. I can't verify. I mean, I can verify that. I don't know. Haven't talked much about that. But what I do know is that his Black teammates all loved and respected him. Russell was out there yesterday tweeting, and so obviously he was there for them. I mean, it's clearly. I mean, I don't think that anybody's putting on an act at all.
Well, there were two names. They called him Heine was one,
right?
But then the other one they called him, which I had to understand, was Hawk.
Hawk, yes,
is what JoJo and Cowens and that particular era.
It's like a tomahawk, right?
No, I'm not sure what it about tomahawk. It was something to do with Hawk, and I don't know what it was, but that's what they called.
I never asked. I just took it, and they did call him Hawk. And one of my favorite stories, and this is a Tommy story and it's the Havlicek story and combined, okay? Havlicek told me that one day Tommy took him aside and talked about Bill Bradley. And he said, hey, John, the next time he puts both hands on your hips, I want you to take the ball and smash it in his face. And John said, but Hawk, he doesn't bother me at all. But Hawk, I know that thing was Bud Hawk. And you're right. That was a little known nickname outside the little fraternity that people didn't know him as. But right, inside the group, he was Hawk.
I had my first encounter with both Red and Tommy was my rookie year. I came to Boston in 1977, getting drafted by the Celtics. I come up here to visit. My attorney's supposed to be with me. And he somehow, I reach out to him and he's not here. He said, go to the Garden, go to see Red. So I get in the cab. I don't have much money. And I'm thinking Logan was, $30 cab ride. It was $4 or whatever back then. So I get to the Garden, look at this barn. This guy said the Garden's right. I was like, what? And finally I find my way to the Celtic office, see the secretary. And she's like, tell her who I was. And she says, Mr. Arbach and Heinsohn and Coach Heinsohn are in the office. You can go in. And they are laughing like hell, before I get in. Like, just, you can hear Red, but then you hear Tommy's voice, a big, barrel voice coming out. I walk through the door. As soon as I walk in, it gets dead silence. They don't say another word. I'm like, holy shit, what am I gonna do now? My little rookie self, and I got two legends, not one. I got two legends in front of me, and I'm trying to compose myself, but I will always remember that particular thing that happened to me.
My favorite Tommy stuff is the national broadcast. As a fan, as a kid growing up, trying to listen to Tommy on CBS, not be biased, was outstanding. I mean, it was just the best. And then he's with Dick Stockton, who was an outwardly obvious 76ers fan. I mean, he had to be. Growing up, we'd be like, these two would be arguing. Tommy would try so hard not to be biased. And eventually, I think Cunningham replaced him, and it was never the same on CBS because Tommy was so entertaining and charismatic. What's his lasting memory going to be? Does he get a statue? I mean, Johnny Most has the microphone at the Garden. Bob, what's befitting of a guy like Tommy Heinsohn, 6-7 decades? I mean, it's a long time.
He is Mr. Celtic above all the players, all of them. He's no association with any other team. Like Cousy coached another team. Bird coached another team. But Tommy Heinsohn was the Celtic through and through. I've tweeted and I mean it. Nobody bled green more than Tommy Heinsohn. I'd recommend a statue. I'd recommend a statue of Tommy with that hook shot. I'm telling you, that's the thing. Yeah, I understand the current generation knows him as a broadcaster, but the foundation was the fact that he was a great player. He's a Hall of Fame player. There are 4 people, 3 of them who had an NBA association, who are in the Hall of Fame as both a player and a coach. The 4th was a college guy. And Tommy, Lenny Wilkins, and Bill Sharman, a teammate of his.
Yeah, that's a nice company.
And that's an incredible tribute. I think a person like that. Now, both papers have done their job. For people, go buy a paper. You don't want to just settle for this today, people. Okay, this is not the way you want to commemorate Tommy Heinsohn. Is on the palm of your hand. Buy the damn paper. Buy the Globe and buy the Herald and put them away because they're keepsakes, both of them. Great job.
I love it. Bob, occasionally, if you were a Celtic broadcaster, you would get a little call from the office about something you might have said about one of the players. And so you get a little, so it was one day I got a call from EEI and they were telling me about something, but they said, by the way, the Celtics, you said something about, I said, who do I need to talk to? So it's Rich Gotham. And so I called Rich Gotham, the president of the Celtics, and he says, I said, hi. He said, well, Max, you said something the other day that I said, 90% of the things I say about the Celtics are, 95% are always positive. There's some things that, well, why can't we want you to be more like Tommy? And I said, look, I'd have to be the Incredible Hulk to have that much green if I'm going to be like damn Tommy Heinsohn, because nobody bled green like Tommy. So I was almost like, I said, nobody can be like Tommy. A broadcaster today can't be like Tommy Heinsohn for any team right now because you're too much of a homer. You're too much on the other side. And things he said that, you know, I laugh about that only Tommy could get away with. I mean, it was after my Violet Palmer comment where I was talking about Tommy Heinsohn. I was mimicking him when I was like, go get me some bacon and eggs. I was talking like Tommy, and nobody got that. So I was like, I ended up having to apologize or whatever. But telling this story because 2 weeks later, there's a game against the Houston Rockets, and Yao Ming was there. And they throw Yao Ming a pass, and it goes out of his hand. And Tommy says, he didn't catch that ball because of those chopstick fingers. Oh. What? What? Chopstick fingers? And you telling me about what I said? So, I mean, Tommy Heinsohn could kind of get away with anything as a broadcaster for the Celtics.
Yeah. You know, it was, he had that niche and he got that aura and he established it and everybody knew it. But I'm going to remember him as being an incredibly intelligent man. And of course, we got to talk about the painting. We have to talk about that side of him, the artist. I remember the first time I found out about this, guys, was in a little thing in Sport Magazine when he was still with the Celtics, and it had a little item called scorecard, you know, and it talked about how Tommy Heinsohn of the Celtics is accomplished a drawer. They talked about his drawings. This is before we got into full-scale art. And that's what the first time I found out about it. People have to know he's a legitimate artist. We're not talking about the stick figures. We're talking about the man did portraits. The man was very noted for his landscapes. He used to take vacations and international vacations and take his art, his palette and go and find new subjects to paint, whether it's Paris, London, Rome, whatever. He would. That's one of the things he would do in the off season. Oh, he was so he's a very accomplished artist. You know, wonderful side of him. We have a Heinsohn in our living room. You know, I'm very proud of. And that's something
I have a picture around here someplace, and I was telling Nick I have to find it. But it was a drawing, and it was of myself, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, and Larry Bird. That he did a art graphic of the four of us. Mm-hmm. And, you know, he wrote up there to me something like, you know, when you need to be at your best, you can be at your best. Something like that. It was almost like backhanded, like, well, we know you don't play hard all the time, but when they needed you, you know, you were there to do what you need to do. But that was another side because he would go, and it was a popular way because Tommy was also very much about the ladies. So that was another way to draw women towards him when he was out on the street. The coolest thing in the world, you're an artist. Hey, baby, let me draw a picture of you. Come over here. So it was just this unique thing. He had all these facets with him that were so great, even to the point where he used to tell you, Bob, I'm sure he told you 1,000 times how he didn't make that much money. So that's why he started an insurance company over in Worcester. And, and how, because, you know, he didn't make all that money during that time.
Oh, when he retired, he was an insurance salesman. And he also, the Celtics started up broadcasts right away. And he worked with Red on channel 56.
That is crazy.
And he did play-by-play. And I could still hear Red. He's walking.
That had to be the most biased.
Tommy was the stabilizing force. How's that?
Oh my God. Where can we find that footage?
Tommy had the rain red in. I'm not kidding.
The Celtics have to release that footage from the vault because I remember as a kid, they put once in a while Kuzi and Tommy together, and Tommy would have to do play-by-play, and it was like cluttered and clustered. I can't imagine the homerism with Red.
No, you can't. You really can't. It was priceless. But that was a full-time job, the insurance, until 69. The broadcasting, it was during seasonal for him, you know, which was first fine. But that's what he did. And apparently he was an award-winning champion salesman. You know, he was like a star of the team. of the insurance company. So, because he was a bright guy. I mean, there's no question. He's a very bright man. One of my memories, I wish, oh God, I don't know if they got it vaults, but we used to have this, Max remembers the kickoff dinner every year. Tip-off dinner was at the B'nai B'rith. And
Look at Max.
and at one of them, Tommy Heinsohn gave a speech about what it meant to him to be a Celtic. That was almost brought tears to your eyes. It was so profound and so heart wrenching, and just so passionate. And he articulated it in a way that you couldn't do better. It truly meant something to him. And I wish I had. I remember I wrote a column about it. If I find a column, I could get some of the quotes. But he was capable of really great oratory. Believe me.
And you mentioned we talk a lot about the painting. I did not know that he was such a big Winston Churchill fan, who was also a huge painter. So that shows it was beyond basketball, and he touched everybody. And guys, I can't think it.
Tommy was layers. He was like, you couldn't get Tommy in one page. He was layers. It was page after page, and you turn another page, you're going, wow, I didn't know this, or didn't he, or people he met, or Sinatra, or this. It was just like layers upon layers about history, which are now gone. That hopefully some of it will be brought back by us. But I think if you had 1,000 people in the room, we were all talking about Tommy, there'd still be tons and tons of stuff that people didn't know. And you know how much he loved Helen. His wife Helen. Oh my God, he'd always say, "Yeah, well, I got to do it if the redhead wants me to do it." And he talked about her all the time, and then to see that when she got cancer, and Tommy at that time went cold turkey and never smoked again. After all those years of 40, 50 years of smoking, Tommy just stopped on a dime and never really smoked again. And that was a testament to him as a man, and how that he could will himself to do things. People talk about Donald Trump's will to do things. Tommy would have just blasted anything that President Trump even thought about, because Tommy would will things. Even guys who couldn't really play that well, because they were Celtics, Tommy saw good things in them. I was like, that dude can't play. You don't know what you're talking about. He can do this, he can do that, he can do this. I'm like, well, I'm looking at him, but he would will a guy. It's like, you think about it. Walter McCarty wasn't a great player. Mm-hmm. But after you thought about it, when he said, "I love Walter," and when he said that, everybody would just go on and on, like Walter was like the salt of the earth. So it was just unique. And I think I had one difference about it. He and I were talking, and that's when I said that I was on the air, and I said, Kevin Garnett might be the greatest all-around Celtic. And that's combining defense and offense. And it got to be, I want to say it was game 5 or 6. And he said, "Yeah, you said that, but your boy ain't really did anything." And that's when Kevin had this unbelievable game and went to another level. So Tommy had this belief that, you had to either put up or shut up. It was his
Kyrie
play, Bob, or the damn highway. That's how it was.
He blasted Kyrie. You rarely heard, Kyrie come right out, remember, and said Tommy must be watching the games. But he blasted Kyrie. He had balls of steel, man. Nobody contested him. And then you look at some of the tweets that went around yesterday. Isaiah Thomas, he said, "I was blessed to be called the little guy by him." And you mentioned Walter and the Tommy point. You mentioned Max about the underdog, right? He rooted for the underdog. I did not know the origin of the Tommy point was for those who were not necessarily at the top of the box score, but made the win, and this is, right. He said he learned that from Red. And that's the other thing too. He carried on that tradition of Red Auerbach. You felt Red around him when he was there, at least as a fan. So he's sorely going to be missed. And now it's up to you guys. Hold the torch, all you guys.
That is so true. That is, I think, what you will miss, because he was, I want to say he's probably, Bob, I probably have to say he's the last touch to, anything.
That was there all the time. Yeah.
You think about those guys, because it was JoJo and Havlicek and then it was Tommy who was around for all the championships. So he read Auerbach better than anybody. So I think that's true. I think that's the last linchpin right now to who Red Auerbach really was.
Hopefully they're up there smoking a cigar, at least lighting one up in heaven, basketball gods and everything else. So, guys, this was an honor to sit with you and talk about a living legend with a passing legend with two living legends. And God bless Tommy. Rest in peace. And I think he'd want you all go out and get a Tommy point. So let's go do it.